Hello, everybody. This is Jade Yurich checking in on another Buck Live. Hope everybody's having a great night tonight. I just wanted to give a few updates as we begin our live stream. So, in terms of updates, Buck's scripted work is developing fast with big announcements coming soon. Buck is also going to be at Real Screen in Austin, Texas next week, which is a summit for unscripted television, and we are very excited to dive in. As well, we just brought on Brian Meadwell as our new head of branded content. So, welcome to the team, Brian. And we are diving into the scripted world with new projects on our slate with exciting showrunners. Keep an eye out for upcoming press releases as those develop. We're currently in development with MTV, and we're excited to start production with them in 2023, this new year. And there's just a lot of new unscripted shows that have been in production, and we're really excited to speak about them at a later date. But nonetheless, lots of news. Just can't say any of it yet, but very exciting. The most exciting thing today, though, is that we're going to be welcoming Mr. Colten Wilke to the Buck Livestream. And just a little bit about Colten, from what I gather, is he's this really lovely guy who's made quite the transition in his life to finding his filmmaking journey. So without further ado, I think I'll bring Colten onto the Buck Livestream. Stand by. Welcome, Colten Wilke. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jade. I'm a really nice guy, as you just mentioned, so I have to tell you before we get going here that it's Colten Wilke. Colten Wilke. Yeah,
Colten Wilke.
I know it's a hard on the E there, not a silent E. Who would have thought? But it's okay.
How has that been your entire life, dealing with that?
Yeah, my entire life it's been 99% Wilke. So there's no breaking the trends here.
We got to change the narrative. Welcome, Colten Wilke, everybody. Do not get it wrong.
Thank you. Yeah.
How are you, sir?
Good. I'm doing great. It's awesome to be here and talk to you, and I'm really excited about the projects going on and the partnership with Buck. So yeah, it's awesome to meet you, and I really look forward to talking to you here today.
So I guess take me to the beginning of the Buck connection. How did that initiate for you?
Well, yeah, I was the most recent project that I've been working on with Hoghead Media. We were looking for a partnership for distribution and as a co-production. And just talking to peers in the industry and stuff, eventually some people who know me really well said, hey, I know Sean Buckley at Buck Productions, and you should reach out. And I did that. And after working with Emma Fleury and Sean and everyone else at Buck Productions, it's been just an awesome relationship, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do together and accomplish. So it's funny how that works out, but it got very fortunate to meet them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to jump right in, like in terms of the most important thing that kind of brought us all together here is the film Thunderbird, correct?
Yeah, Thunderbird. The Thunderbird was my first feature film, and we were looking for distribution, and we signed on with Buck Productions, and so Thunderbird is it's set in the Pacific Northwest. It follows the story of a young man named Will Brook, played by myself, who is searching for his missing sister. As much as he's doing that, he's also battling with his inner struggle as well. So it's an interesting dynamic between the two. But he goes on the search to find his missing sister and has to head back to his hometown where he's got some personal demons. And he goes and works alongside and partners up with a newly instated detective named Ivy Seymour, who's played by the great Natalie Brown. And the two of them go on to help each other kind of solve their own missions. It's set in the Pacific, in the backdrop of the Pacific Northwest, which is very near and dear to my heart, of course, having worked at sea and worked on the island. And we were very fortunate to work and collaborate with the Kwaggy-Tooth First Nations in Port Hardy and the Squamish First Nations here in Vancouver. And we think we've done a really great picture. And we hope, of course, that anyone who's watching this will go and check it out after and hopefully feel the same way. And then, of course, most recently is I'm working on a project called The Last Stop, and that's about the shipwrecked Hogger, a train that went down in 1947 in Slocan Lake and has never been seen since. So I led an expedition last year to go find that train. And in doing so, we've made a feature documentary about that experience, but also the other things that we ended up finding, which were just some great stories about these local people who live and call Slocan home. So yeah, those are kind of the two big projects that I've signed on with Buck with, and you know, they're obviously very very helpful, and have made the experience just really great with collaboration and working with one another.
Well, I just wanted to say about Thunderbird, I guess just to meditate on it for a moment. Your performance is incredible, man. Like, you are like such a I guess like a subtle, nuanced, like quiet observer, detective at the same time, searching for your sister. It's very like, I don't know, like why it was giving me like reminiscent of like maybe just the tonally of like a Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood at the beginning, where it's just like the character doesn't talk and that's fine. Like, you're just, everything is emoting. I guess
that's a great reference, and I appreciate that. At all. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I guess a two-part question would be like working with the director Nicholas and getting to like the place where you needed to be to play that part. What was that experience like for you? And I guess what were some of, I guess, the ups and downs of that? And then I guess to go off of that as well, as like, who are some of your actors that you feel influenced by, I suppose?
Yeah, well, on Nicholas, Nicholas Tretion, the writer and director, we worked together in the story development to make sure that we were making a character, as authentic as we could, and something that we worked on. For example, like Will was an isolated guy working on a fish boat, so I know prior to when we actually started filming, I went into a little bit of an isolation period for about a month and a half, just to kind of get that mental psyche through. But yeah, just that, I wouldn't say that while we were actually filming, there was much, in between takes and things like that. It was more just kind of just be in my own head, Will's own head. Like, he's looking for a sister. He's not too familiar with going around town. He's not too comfortable in that environment. Funny enough, being out at sea might seem like a place where you'd be uneasy, but for him, it was more about walking into town. And some people that I've looked up to, at least actors, I know it's hard to just pick somebody like right off the bat, because there's so many great actors, especially right now, emerging out there. But like, just through a few knocks to my favorite oldies. Big fan of Donald Sutherland. Nice. Really like Steve McQueen. And I know it's like, for a Canadian, this might be everyone, but I don't know if he gets enough credit, but I was always extremely inspired by Jim Carrey and his story. So he just seemed like a good guy. So those are kind of just a couple of the people that I look into.
Good picks.
I got everything in your question there, but yeah.
No. That's great. I mean, like, I guess one of the other questions that kind of goes off of that too is just like the preparation that went into the role, I suppose. And I mean, there are some more like some scenes with some physicality and some like, fights in them too. So what was there any point where I guess it went beyond the realm of sort of like what you were used to and like stuff that was new and that you had to really like learn and figure out in terms of that? Or was it all pretty natural, I suppose, in terms of preparing?
Yeah, the preparation, I know obviously some of those fight scenes, I had some fighting training background about, and that was great, but William Bellew was there, and he really worked. He was in the not the Revenant, sorry. He was in the Twilight series, so got some fighting action there. But he was really helpful for those scenes in particular. The fishing scenes, for example, like that might seem. I used to be a fisherman, and that same vessel that you see in the boat called the Ocean Twilight. In the movie called The Ocean Twilight is the same boat that I work on. So, in terms of slinging halibut, that came quite natural. So it gave me a very good perspective of where Will was coming from. But yeah, it's obviously like it's a nice indie thriller, psychological drama, and I just try to just adapt a little bit of quirks to what I know fishing is like. For example, like you never walk normal after you've been at sea for a while, or right. You're not too inclined to raise your head up and say hello to people and things like that. So it was just more of taking that mental aspect to try to just every interaction that you come across. I know anyone who's worked out, like, and you referenced Daniel Day-Lewis at the start, but yeah, it's like you're alone and you're in your head. And when there's something super pressing, like a family member missing, you definitely are going to be super central focused on that. So being in an uncomfortable environment and centering on something that is more like a mission, and it kind of created that very organic, reclusive kind of demeanor that that I had in that performance. And of course that was remnant, like Nick, we talked about that, and that kind of how he envisioned his character when he was writing it and things like that.
In terms of I guess contributing to Canadian pop culture and Canadian culture in general by creating a film that can sort of be representative and reflective of Canadian themes. I'm just curious about the inclusion of the Indigenous themes and those characters and sort of that journey that your character takes. Like, I'm just curious about like maybe some of the behind the scenes sort of moments that were noteworthy to you, or highlights in terms of like the communication that went into that and just figuring out how to represent that properly, I suppose. You know what I mean? Yeah,
well, it's definitely like, it was an honor and a genuine honor to work closely with local Indigenous groups, and the Kwaggle First Nations, for example, in Port Hardy. It was a very interesting experience because I had worked with a few First Nations fishermen at different points, and so I've been to Fort Rupert before. It's just where the Kwaggle First Nations is called Fort Rupert, which I just like Port Hardy. So there's a little bit of I definitely spent time just around that particular area, but I went up there, for example, and we were able to meet with David Knox and Calvin Hunn, and we just discussed a little bit about the film that we were making, and obviously like we really kept, it was almost like it went from talking to the film a little bit to us just talking about fishing for like an hour, and then we carved a little bit, and then we discussed just kind of the themes, and we had our consultant there, Latash, who's from the Squamish First Nation, who we worked with some of the story development, and we shot the whole thing in the Pacific Northwest, so we really felt like we had to capture something authentic and special. And if you've been around the Pacific Northwest, you would know about the many and various First Nation Indigenous tribes that called that place home long before we did. So it was only it's just a part of the course if you're going to make a film about that area, that you're going to have representation from all people who call that place home. And so for us, it was just an absolute, for me, it was just an absolute amazing experience, because the first time that you've ever seen the Thunderbird dance on film was in Thunderbird. So David Knox, who's a hereditary chief, he found a VHS of him doing it, and the dance and the ceremony dance that hadn't been recorded for a long time, and they said, we'd like to perform this, and we all were able to bear witness to such an amazing, and obviously you've seen it, but such an amazing dance that myself and Julian Black Antelope, who plays the chief in the film, we were sitting there raised up on in this thing called a big house. We were sitting there raised up in between two big totem poles and watching these three young men do this dance with their masks, and it was so special and spiritual. It gives me chills now just thinking about it, because thank you for the question, because it makes me think about those things. And that was just one of those experiences. I think the whole crew, everybody involved, and the whole community came down. They had them in the rafters watching it. So it's just such a special, unique moment that definitely transcends anything to do with the film. It's those moments in filmmaking, as I'm sure you know, that really stick with you as time goes on.
100%. I'm curious about, I guess, the bug then that you've probably received from doing this, because this is your acting debut in Thunderbird, correct?
Yeah. That's just the first. Yeah.
What else have you gone on to act in, or what are your sort of where have you set your sights in terms of that part of your career journey?
Well, first I got into the film world through acting. I went to the Victoria Academy of Dramatic Arts. So my initial plan was to really, go to acting school and see if that was going to be something I'd be interested in. And from there, it was all about making a film. I was really passionate about writing. And so that's what led me to just trying to go in that direction into the industry. And acting has always been the number one fan, but you just never know. I think I know I heard a little bit of you talking about this before when we were doing our little test chat, where the film industry is such a fickle thing, and you just don't know what opportunities are going to come at you. You might have an envision and a goal of something where you see yourself, but you have to be extremely flexible, and the ups and downs are obviously a part of that. So that's been the only film that I have acted in, because right after that, I got right onto this next project, and it was bringing out a whole different set of skill sets and producing, and obviously bringing in the diving world. But continued to obviously work on the skill, and for my process, you always want to be stretching those muscles and acting muscles, of course. So very hopeful for another opportunity. Hope you'll see the space on the big screen again. Well, you will obviously with this next film. Just you'll be seeing me for me, maybe not playing a character. But yeah, it's funny. Time goes by fast since you were in front of the camera last, and so my goal for sure is definitely to be acting all the time and making film and documentary, and whichever one comes first or happens, obviously going to jump on every opportunity.
Totally. Well, and I mean, creating opportunities for yourself to do it as well. Not waiting, I suppose, is probably the strategy as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like for Thunderbird, for example, as a producer and executive producer, and putting the teams together and things like that, you're wearing all hats, and that's something that needs to be properly navigated. But also, it was a great learning experience in that front, because I got to see things through a bunch of different lenses. But yeah, it's like if I went from a pretty good career in the diving industry and working in Alaska to, being like at 25, being like, I'm going to change my life completely around, and take a chance on an opportunity to go and pursue an endeavor that at one, it was just a dream, and it ends up being, a passion that needs to be followed even more. But it's just tough to make those decisions, I find, in life, to leave security, we'll say.
No, yeah. I mean, I guess the next question, and feel free to deflect, is who gave you the most shit after you made your decision to transition, or like, were you self-critical? Like, what was, I guess, like the hardest part about making that transition?
Yeah, good question, Jade. It's, funny enough, the person I was most afraid to tell in the moment was a man named Tim Couturier. He's a captain of he was the captain on the boat called the Nautilus Swell in Alaska that I was working on, and because of that job, I had to relocate to Victoria. And Victoria is just full of the arts and everything, and so that was always where it was awesome to be there. But he really mentored me a lot and helped me a lot with just so much. But he also gave me the job on the fishing boat to be a halibut fisherman, which was awesome. And I, because of that, I was doing contract work, so I was having to go. And I'm coming back to your question, so
no.
Bear with me, eh? Yeah. Okay. And so you go from, I'm going out from months at sea, thinking about, stories and things like that, and then to all of a sudden 3 weeks off in Victoria where you can focus on those things, and it's like, hey, maybe I'll take a part-time class, or maybe I'll just test this, not even thinking about it. But after a few little part-time programs and things, it's like, it was apparent that this was like, well, I either continue down this path and become a captain or whatnot, or I just take a chance for that for this year and see how that goes, and whatever happens. But telling Tim on the fish boat, I tell you, I'm sitting there, it's just like going like this. We're in a big swell heading out to sea, and there's like, there's nothing going on except endless amounts of water and waves, and like the sound of the motor and the plunging into the just straight into the next wave. And so it obviously smells of gas fumes in the ocean. And I just look over at Tim. I'm like, Tim, I'm thinking about and so I was really nervous to tell him, because it's like, you think, yeah, hardy fisherman, which is so far from the truth. I told him that I wanted to pursue this. He knew that I had liked to do some writing, and I had just said, like, hey, I, was as honest as I could be, and unbeknownst to me, and he just was extremely supportive. He called me stupid, but rightfully so. He's like, he's like, I think you're good. It's like, all to you, you'd be great. And of course he's continued to have me on board that ship, which helped, of course, take care of any sort of supplement income that was needed as being a student, or as also, starting off in the film industry and not necessarily having to worry about the financial obligations of being a struggling filmmaker when you can go out. So yeah, very nervous, very hard to support him. And then also you do think about things like, well, will I disappoint my folks? But again, another support. They were so happy that I was pursuing a dream at sea and stuff, but they're very supportive and encouraged me to follow it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but not easy, right? You think that guys you think your buddies are gonna maybe rag on you or something, but there's a long time ago. No, yeah.
Well, that's good. So you find yourself now with a base in Vancouver. How do you find the industry out there, and how are things going for you out there?
Yeah, Vancouver's great. This is it's obviously a big industry here, and there's things bustling. I'm not so much because the projects have been like from the very start to the beginning. You really are fully engaged from pre-production to the very end of post, to obviously sales and getting it out the door. So there's been every sort of opportunity here, though. There's lots of acting going on. There's tons of corporate production work. There's tons of, you just have to kind of grab it. There's just a lot of people out here in the industry as well. So it's they're really, it's just overall a great experience here in Van. So I hope that, it's funny because on any given day I find myself, you're either at the desk working on some creative stuff at your apartment, or you're working on a production and doing a film shoot, or, you're on an expedition to find a lost train. So it's definitely exciting. Right.
That's awesome. How do you keep yourself occupied or busy creatively when you're out on a boat?
Yeah, when you're out on a boat, how do you find yourself occupied and busy? Well, it's all in your head, obviously. So your hands are filled. Like, it's funny though, because you're doing hard labor and a lot of work, and there's tons of elements going on. But as everything, as you get comfortable with it, you have that time to daydream.
Right.
So the thing is that it would be think about all your ideas, and then once you're cut and you just go into the hold, before you go to sleep, you write them down, or if you're in the engine room, you just jot down your ideas and try to get something on paper, which is the hardest part, I think, for a lot of us, right? So, yeah, and it's obviously tough, but no, it's yeah.
What would you say some of your creative outlets are, or ways of, I suppose, accessing that part of you?
Yeah, it's on any given day, I find it's different, right. But you have to have some sort of thing. So for me, I try to get at least make sure that I'm in front of my computer, writing or editing or something on one of the various stories, we'll say, and that's more writing per se. At least try to get 30 minutes to an hour, which I know that sounds like extremely small, which is fair, but it's also just, there's so many other things going on in someone's life. So it's like, you got to so creatively try to focus on some writing. And then I've got a ton of scripts, printed off scripts that for acting and things, I always like to try to memorize monologues and just stretch the skills there. So that can help, but also obviously getting some physical exercise can clear your head, where you can start thinking about those things, because you get walloped down with the business side of stuff, to try to make sure those creative pursuits are always in the back of your mind, and suddenly, keep your head down and revisit the fact, why did you get into it at the start, because you're passionate about telling stories and making art.
On a day-to-day, how how is your I guess your work life with Hoghead Media, and tell us a little bit about the team there and what you guys are all up to there.
Yeah, the Shipwrecked Hogger is at Hoghead Media. It's a great story, and I'm like excited to talk to you about it. So in 19 well, sorry, do you want to know about Hoghead or the Shipwreck?
Sure.
I was
How about tell me about Hoghead and Shipwreck?
okay. Yeah. So Hoghead Media is a production company that we started a year and a half ago, and it was done with myself and my partner named Clint Stibbard, and it was to be the first production for this feature documentary filmmaking that we wanted to do. And the first project that we were going to do and pursue is the hopes to uncover the lost mystery of the locomotive 3512 in Slocan Lake. So we wanted to make a documentary about going out to pursue that. So just a little bit about that is that in 1947, I know I said this earlier, but in 1947, on New Year's Day, this train that was being barged down the center of the lake, locomotive 3512, falls off. It's got a tugboat, 2 barges, and the train's loaded onto each, on each side. There's 8 cars on each side.
Okay.
And this barge starts taking on water on the port side. And because of that, they have to evacuate the crew, cut the cable, and off goes locomotive 3512, the caboose, the snowplow, and some lumber cars. Well, this has never been seen before. This train has fallen down into one of Canada's deepest lakes. But it also resonates with kind of what's going on with it in the Kootenays at the time. It's a little bit of a metaphor for the region. You've got this mass gold rush and silver rush at the Kootenays, and then the big and a lot of lumber mills going on. But in the 40s and 50s, that started to die down, and so the train kind of symbolizes a little bit of the lost boom of this region. And I think as we go on to pursue and hope to find, no spoilers, try to find the train, we also discover a lot about the locals and a little bit more about the communities and the people that call that place home. And the two intertwine themselves. So that's the first project for Hoghead Media, and we're just so excited to get that out the gate. I want to tell you everything, but I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know. You can tell me now. Yeah. You can let me navigate that properly, but
just such a cool hybrid of both of your loves coming together. It seems, right? So I mean, that's sort of the ideal scenario.
Yeah, that you're absolutely you're bang on there, because it's it was like the synergy of two things that culminated. I was like, this is absolutely what I'm meant to be doing. So
I guess take us through a typical it's an expedition, yet also it's a shoot day. So take us through, like, I guess one of the more challenging days, and what are some of like the potential dangers and I guess like risks that go into what not only you're doing leading the expedition, but the filmmakers and everyone else who's involved. Like I'm just curious about the logistics there.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing to do. So we're in the Kootenay region, so there's limited resources around. So all about small unit crews. You just don't want many numbers going around, but you need to have people who can work really hard in kind of extreme environments. That's obviously, we're not doing anything that's not safe, right? Everything's about safety first, especially when you're working on the water with live boats. You're driving in all sorts of different terrain and bad weather conditions. So we had a small crew. My associate producer, Kerrigan Cartner, was just so helpful. She was coordinating, having food. We'd have the crew out on a barge on the boat for 16 hours. And then we had to bring food and obviously coffee and everything else that keeps the engine running, right? And
of course. No pun intended.
Yeah. and so the logistics are like, making sure that the people, everyone's fed and having and feels, taken care of, making sure people wearing the proper PPE, so safety equipment, but also just comfortable things to be in. And then of course, we were on the middle of this massive lake. Slocan's a huge lake, and it's thousands of feet deep, and it's surrounded by massive Valhalla, and Selkirk mountain ranges. So you can't do anything like you can't just drive down to the beach side of the lake. You're either getting in at Slocan or going halfway down to Silverton to have boat access.
Right.
So that just caused a bit of, just a lot of planning, and Kyle Catheringer, the director, who I'm sure at some point you guys will have a great conversation. You'll get to talk to him, and Stefan, the cinematographer, Stefan Burrell. They did an amazing job with, shooting on a, open platform, and sitting at points for 4 hours straight because we're searching on this little monitor, and it's exhausting, and you're like just waiting for someone to be like, oh, we see something, and hop to it, but keeping warm. And we had other guys on and crew on boats going around and taking pictures, and then we had some in town, and then of course at one point we were in a mine shaft. So there's just it was a super exciting expedition, but one that your team had to just be very well prepped and understanding, what are some of the dangerous elements we're dealing with, and what are the protocols that need to be enacted if something goes wrong.
Nice.
So that's exciting filmmaking. It's like I'd love studio stuff would be great, and that's awesome. But also these type of unique adventures are, I think, what people want to see. Like they're gonna be following a very unique journey that is obviously this is a once in a lifetime experience. So.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'll transition over to sort of how you identify question in terms of your career is, there's a lot of different content formats that we find ourselves in as filmmakers that carry 5 to 10 hats at a time. I guess just talking a little bit about how you balance that, and if there's any particular medium you prefer, or is it kind of like just sort of a general slate, and you're kind of you just kind of go wherever it seems most natural, I suppose.
Well, the thing, if you had a obvious choice, you hop on those opportunities. So this again is it's really just following the work as it comes, and trying to be as multi-talented as you could, but writing and acting, or documentary filmmaking, or working in the doc world, or working in the feature film world, or indies, or even commercial work. I think you just got to be. I try to view it as just like I've got this set of skills, and I know what I'm passionate about and what I hope to do, and I'm obviously going to try to lead my own projects and also help out other people's projects with whatever I can bring to bring that table. So I'd like to think that if you were making a film and you were like, hey, maybe we should call Colten. Maybe he can give us a deal.
Just get his last name right. Don't mess up his last name, or he's not coming. He's not.
I hope I do. I just had to get you there. It was so funny, but luckily I think there was only a few people watching at the time. No,
we're good.
You can edit it out too. But no, it's a matter of being like, I want someone to think that, they're going to get the best. I'm going to put a maximum effort in for the role, whatever that might be. In a character form, or if it's like we have a project that we would like you to lead, I want to be able to at least bring as much as I can from my work life experience, and also from the filmmaking experience, and intertwine them as best as I can, and find, like obviously spending 8 months shooting The House of Dragons would be a nice contract to get.
Right.
But we all have to just try to stick true to what our passions are, and I think through that, whatever project we're working on, it's meant to be. So for example, this one, Thunderbird, being so closely connected to the boats and to the fishing and to the Pacific Northwest, was just like definitely makes sense for the natural cycle of where my life was kind of going. And I think this next project that you'll see is the same to that. So I don't know what's next, but I'm hopeful and excited. I've got a few things to do, but yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Jade, but.
Where's your favorite place to dive in the world?
Alaska.
Yeah.
No one's gonna, and this is only because it's cold water diving, so you're in a full suit, right? And but there's more like biodiversity in the Pacific Northwest than what's going on in Australia or the Great Barrier Reef right now. It's beaming with life down there. You should follow Tiare Boys. Shout out to her, Tiare Boys, if you want any cool pictures or things like that, because she's always up there. And obviously Paul Nicklin, who's from this area, is someone to follow who dives in cold water a lot. But Alaska is just absolutely gorgeous, and where we were diving, there's so much to see. Giant Pacific octopus, and yeah, those are cool. So yeah, definitely the best place. Yeah.
And I guess just out of my own curiosity, doing deep sea dives and the pressure and I guess what is like the deepest you've ever gone, and like how does that work in terms of like equalizing properly and coming back up to surface when you're going so deep, and how much time do you have down there? Like I'm just completely, I just want to know.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Oh, happy to tell. So yeah, there's all these different levels of training that you need to get as a diver. But I went to a thing called the Canadian Diving Institute, and that's in Kelowna, BC. And Vern actually is in the documentary, but I digress. So there's different levels. You get your PADI, you get your open water, you get your second level. You're certified to go to 60 or 120 feet. And from there, you have to get a bunch of certifications and things like that. So the commercial school and the tech, so I was trained as a tech diver, so I can go down to certain depths with that. And that's having certain bottles. So instead of just having one scuba tank on your back, you've now got two-stage bottles on each side, and you're dealing with going down to depths of 200 feet, 225 feet, things like that in safe spots, and then you're going to a bottom time for say 10 minutes, and then from there you're doing an hour of deco all the way up, and that's decompression, right? And so you just, it's interesting. It's a technical and like difficult skill hobby to be going underwater, but and to be in with all this gear and a suit, and your purview is just this. But as you train and you get better, your vision all of a sudden, and you can just see everything, and it becomes natural. So it takes a while to get to that point, but once you do, it's no different just like from swimming with a pair of goggles in a little pool. You can really just start exploring. And it's also, diving is a very friendly sport. Obviously, some of the stuff you're doing in Alaska, you want to be in some good shape, but you can really, anyone can go diving and be weightless. So yeah, I've done a bunch of shipwrecks up and down the Pacific Northwest, which are like, you would just never, one, to get to these locations are hard, but two, to dive and to know where to drop in to dive and see them. But we're talking about old liners and big, from the Princess Fleet from back in the late 1800s and 1900s that are lost up and down the Pacific Northwest. Oh, wow. So it's just an absolute beautiful place. And of course, you've got whales and all that kind of stuff hanging around. But, have you ever dove before?
I have, yeah. I have my PADI, so I'm
okay.
I am certified. I learned I did it while I was in the Philippines back in April. Nice. And so I have some experience, very limited, but
how deep did they let you go?
Well, I think it was about 12 to 18 feet was our max range that we could go, I think. So it wasn't anything too crazy, or 12 to 18 meters, I think. But anyway, But a
weird feeling being completely underwater, eh?
Yeah, and just like the whole sort of like meditative process of like just floating and having that like sort of like that perfect balance, and yeah, it was pretty incredible. I can't wait to go again. So you totally you triggered me with the diving.
Warm water's good too. Warm water's great too. Like cold.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do.
Let's just say the St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, great. They do a lot.
They do have a lot of wrecks there too. Yeah, that's true.
Totally. Are there any myths that you'd like to debunk about working in the entertainment industry? Now that you've become a little bit more established and finding carving your path there.
Myths to debunk. Okay, I would say that maybe a myth to debunk is that the industry from outside perspective is like inherently glamorous. But it's not. It's tough. You gotta get dirty and work hard and that, you know,
Hustle.
yeah, like it takes a lot of work and failed meetings and auditions and it's tough to make your way in this world, let alone in the film industry. So I would say a myth to debunk is that it seems like flashy lights and nice dresses and suits, but it's yeah, it just takes a lot of work. So be prepared to grind, you know.
What would you tell yourself? I mean, how long ago was your transition and starting?
Yeah, it's 8 years.
So if you were to go back 9 years, what would you? And you're still like on the cusp of making that decision. You don't know whether you want to do it or not, but you're kind of like, you know, you're pretty sure. What would you tell yourself?
I think I would just say, you know, just temper your expectations, man.
No regrets.
You know? Yeah, just
Nice.
temper your expectations. Things are going to take time, and if you really want it, it's just, you know, it's not going to happen overnight.
Totally.
I think I'm sure, you know, you just have, everyone's got these ideas of how things can play out, which is good. You need to have a vision and an idea, but, you know, being able to go through doors that seemed closed at one point, or just taking chances on yourself and it really just be comfortable with going to uncomfortable places. Cause it's like I said, quitting something or transitioning from something to different industries is just such a daunting thing. And it's funny because at that age, when I look back in hindsight, it's like, dude, you can do anything at that point. You know, why I would think it to anyone, especially who are fortunate to be, you know, just maybe coming out of school. It's like, you know, just whatever you think is lingering in the back of mind, take as many chances as you can in your 20s for sure.
Mm.
I'm only in my early 30s now, but I'm just saying, like, you know, not to preach the gospel, but just take risks. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a similar theme, or at least like similar mantra about betting on yourself and, you know, manifesting things that, you know, you really like truly like think you're you know, you want to pursue. And I guess in terms of that though, I mean, there is always the question of, you know, it's not just you, it's people need help. So that kind of, you know, segues perfectly into my next question, which is one of my favorites because it's always, you know, it takes a village, to shout out mentors and shout out people that have helped you along your way. So I guess, yeah, like who have been some of those people for you? And do you have any like specific things of what they did for you at certain points that kind of were like, maybe not to say they could have made or broken your path, but that maybe, you know, sort of like pushed you a bit more that you really like could have maybe needed, you know?
Yeah, I find people come in and out of your lives at different times for different reasons. And
Right.
however you want to philosophize why or the reasons, it's up to the individual. But for me, there's definitely been a lot of role models. And from going from the oil and gas derrick world of Northern Alberta to Alaska and the boating world and diving world and fishing, and then now into the film world, there's definitely been numerous amounts of people along the way who've helped me. I can, you know, just to give some adoration to some other people, because you're absolutely right. As much as I've been fortunate to pursue things, you know, you can never get to anywhere without a support system, you know? So yeah, I remember I can go back to, for a little bit of small incidents, but things that weirdly transcend your life. Tony Sodero in grade 12, I had never really enjoyed I had never pursued acting because I was kind of more of a sports guy.
Yeah.
Always wanted to, but I hosted an event and a school event, and he just had said, like, you know, Colten, I think you'd be really good at improv, you know, just based off that. And I was like, what's improv? You know, so, but that's a small little thing. And I just always think about Tony, my old high school teacher, for that. So Mr. Sodero, shout out there if you ever see this. Yeah, shout out Tony. Tony.
Tony.
Yeah. Anyways, but then, you know, I already had mentioned before to you, like someone like Tim Couturier in the diving world, be like, hey, you should, you know, pursue that. You know, like if I don't know how I would react if he just totally was negative or said, no, the opportunities you're giving up, blah, blah, blah. So that's big. Joe McCoy at Victoria Academy of Dramatic Arts for giving me a chance. You know, like there was all these very great actors and actresses auditioning for the program, and I think he took a bit of a chance on a guy who just literally came off of a fish boat.
Still smell it.
Gabrielle Edelman, who's from California, who I met in Alaska. She's been a huge mentor for me now. Her father was who worked in the film industry, Don Gordon, back in the 50s. So, you know, she, for example, saw some of the things I was writing on while I was in Alaska, and always was just a mentor and someone I could call. And even today, of course, helps. I'm sure she might be watching this at some point. So thanks, Gab. It's always there to help me if I've got things going on, questions and things like that. So she's big. And then, of course, my parents.
Of course.
Yeah.
You got credit there.
Yeah. You got credit. Like, so encouraging, you know, never would have thought. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do a quick speed round of questions where we'll rhyme off a few, and then we'll finish with a few final ones that are a little bit more serious and deep. No pun intended. Yeah. So starting with favorite pre-fishing, pre-boating meal.
Ooh. Fuck. Sorry. Didn't mean to swear there.
Okay. This isn't a family show. This isn't a family show.
Okay. Just steak, potatoes, a lot of carbs, steak, potatoes, maybe some yam fries and some broccoli, carrots.
Medium rare, well done. What's your
medium rare? All day long. Yeah.
Very good.
You're not having steaks out on the boat, eh? Right? So yeah.
Do you drink?
I do.
Favorite type of beer?
Okanagan 1516.
Yeah, you guys have great beer out there.
First beer my dad gave me. Yeah.
Nice. Very good. At the ripe young age of 12. No. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Lord of the Rings.
Favorite book?
The Golden Spruce.
Favorite TV show?
Heroes. Give that one to Heroes back in the day. Do you remember Heroes?
I do remember Heroes. What is your favorite word?
Right now, I've been using the word bizarre. I know it sounds stupid, but it's bizarre.
Least favorite word?
Actually.
Good. What's a noise or a sound that you hate?
I actually don't know sound. I just, yeah. Noise?
Yeah.
The sound of
that you hate.
Anna's alarm clock.
And a noise or sound that you love?
The sound of my mom's voice saying, "Hi, Colten."
Oh, that's nice. That's beautiful. Shout out to all the wonderful moms out there.
Shout out to the moms. Yeah.
No, it's good. I just wanted to have
I hope your mom sees that. Yeah.
Yeah, she will. I'll just grab that bit specifically and just, say I love you. In this at times chaotic and frenzied media landscape we are living in, which, we are bombarded with just so many things. Like you said, like even taking half an hour to sit down and like get something done is very difficult with so many things going on. And it is kind of like really, hard sometimes to take a step back and just support others and yourself in terms of mental health. So I just wanted to ask, what are some ways that you find to check in with yourself and invest in your own mental health?
Yeah, we've dealt in my family with some mental health, really up front and center. So, I think for myself, it's just a matter of always checking in with the people closest to you. Obviously you can do the introverted thing and making sure that you're trying to eat healthy and check in. But really, I find that you need to have a support system. And no matter what you're dealing with, if you have a support system of it doesn't have to be many people, 2 or 3 that you can talk to and trust, to just speak genuinely and openly with them about how you're feeling inside, whether that be a stressful day at work or just simply hey, it's a Saturday, it's beautiful out, but I feel like shit. You need to have someone that you can just reach out to.
Right.
And it's obviously for people who don't, it's a matter of just, and again, I couldn't give any perspective to that because I don't know, because I've been very thankful. But for me personally, it's about getting outside, doing something physical, but big support of the outside and outdoors thing, because that's obviously where I've spent most of my life, and what I'm really passionate about is being out there. So that always helps.
Well, yeah. So go outside, people. and
Go
get some
outside.
outdoors.
Yeah, just get the hell outside and get away from your
Air.
screens for a little bit. Watch this, but get away from your screens after.
Watch it outside. No. We always do this thing at the end of our live streams. I just want to say first and foremost, thank you very much, Colten, for taking the time and just being a wonderful interview guest and giving such great answers to all of these crazy questions that come up.
I hope you're just not being polite, but I really appreciated it, and I really enjoyed.
I live in Toronto. We're not polite here. It's
okay.
But I'm from Northern Ontario, where we are extremely polite.
Like Timmins?
Sault Ste. Marie. So even
nice. Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds.
Yeah, not as remote as Timmins, but still just as polite.
I've always wanted to go to like the North Canadian Shield there near and see the
Lake Superior, the coastal
because I imagine, well, you can edit anything out, I guess, but I imagine just not going south to where Toronto and the big metropolitan areas, but staying in northern, apart from maybe the bugs.
Yeah.
Is there bad bugs up there?
Oh yeah.
No. Like black flies?
More mosquitoes.
Do you remember that song yeah, never mind.
I think so. I think I do. But it's worth it. It's worth the bugs are worth it, I'll tell you that. It's it is something special. I mean, we are very fortunate to live in such a beautiful country in Canada. I think it's crazy how fortunate we are. So in saying that, I'll transition to this opportunity that we like to give to our guests to do a shout out or to flashback to any of the projects, like any sort of updates that you have. But basically, this is your platform. This is your moment. Go. No. And rolling sound, rolling camera, and action.
And scene. No, I guess I'm giving shout outs is to Kyle Kathringer, who's the director of the most recent project with Hoghead Media, The Last Stop. He has just been an absolute rock star this whole time working with him. And I think sky's the limit for Kyle Kathringer big time. So, let's go. And yeah, I really hope if this is a little time to just, put some salt on my steak here, is I hope people really just get a chance to go see Thunderbird and hopefully enjoy it and walk away with the same feelings that I did about loving the Pacific Northwest and seeing the cinematic beauty of this region, and the same sentiment for The Last Stop and this new documentary that's coming out this year. They're just really great shows, and I think they're an awesome highlight to Canadian culture and a little peek inside the lives of people who live out here. Awesome.
Well, I'm very happy for your projects, Colten, and welcome to the Buck fam. And I'm hoping that 2023 brings you some great things. Some great things. So.
I watched a film called Kelly's Heroes, and it's with Clint Eastwood and Donald Sutherland. It's an old 70s war film, but Donald Sutherland in it, and you can just look this scene up on YouTube. But he's a tank commander, and he talks about sending out the positive waves. And I know that's just like an adage, like send out good juju or good vibes. But anyways, Donald Sutherland, Kelly's Heroes, positive waves. It's what I try to do every day.
I love it. Well, sometimes we repurpose the content from these live streams and turn them into like throwbacks and flashbacks and stuff. So maybe we'll grab that scene, we'll grab your clip, and then we'll just send that vibe out.
Oh, dude, that'd be great. Yeah.
I think the montage is ready. It won't be as wild as the montage in Thunderbird. With the my goodness, but it'll be something.
Well, dude, I know the whole team over there at Buck, I really look forward to the opportunity to meeting you guys. It's so cool to be connected across country like this and to have working partnerships and obviously what you guys are doing here and you talking to us, and it's just a great experience. So thank you.
Yeah, man. My pleasure, and we'll just keep it going, just keep it rolling, keep the waves flowing.
Yeah, but you got my number now, so you don't need Ryan,
It's true. Yeah, we don't need Ryan. We need Ryan.
Yeah, we need Ryan. Big time. Yeah.
Well, have a great rest of your night. Go enjoy some steak, and thank you again, Colten, and we'll chat soon.
Okay, thanks, Jade. See you, buddy.
Have a great one. Bye.
You too, man. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for checking in on another Buck Live. All right.